The San Francisco 49ers have been one of the most successful teams in the NFL since 2017 when they hired Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. Though they may have been the team that kickstarted the Chiefs dynasty, they've been immensely successful with a 70-62 record since 2017. In 2019, they dominated the NFC en route to their first Super Bowl appearance since the 2012 loss to the Ravens. And they lost to a furious comeback sparked by Jet Chip Wasp, one of the most famous play calls of the 2010s.
Launches down the middle, Hill, open, caught!
Since 2019, the 49ers are 8-4 in the playoffs, with 2 Super Bowl appearances, both losses to the Kansas City Chiefs. The 49ers performed a full roster reset between 2019 and 2023, drafting a new quarterback, trading for a new running back 1, drafting a receiver 2, developing the receivers and tight ends, pass rushers, safeties, and linebackers already on the roster, to be a team good enough to overcome a 17-point deficit in the NFC Championship. Yet they still failed to reach the mountaintop despite their talent and 4 legit chances to win the Super Bowl. On the other side of the coin, you have the Philadelphia Eagles, a team that is 83-48-1 since 2017. They have 3 Super Bowl appearances and 2 Super Bowl championships in that time, and the Eagles also performed a full organizational reset, resetting their head coach, their entire quarterback room, their entire wide receiver room, their entire running back room, 4 out of 5 starting offensive linemen, shout out Lane Johnson, almost their entire defensive line rotation, shout out Brandon Graham, their entire linebacking core, their entire secondary, and their punter, shout out to Jake Elliott and Rick Lovato. The Eagles' Super Bowl win in 2017 was thanks in part to perhaps the most famous play call of the 2010s, the Philly Special.
4th and goal. And they're going to snap it, and it's Trey Burton who throws caught. Foles, touchdown.
That, alongside a Brandon Graham forced fumble.
Back in the day, taking an outside pass rusher in Brandon Graham and putting him inside against the guard,
helped to overcome the greatest quarterback of all time on the biggest stage. Then, 7 years later in 2024, their Super Bowl win came on the back of one of the most dominant seasons ever by one of the most dominant teams ever. A new iconic play call, the dagger.
Maddox comes in and makes a huge play. Now the Eagles get it back. We're going to run some clock, or maybe throw the dagger. Hurts going deep for it all. Devontae Smith! He has got it! Touchdown!
In addition to a Cooper DeJean pick 6, a Zach Bond interception that set up an instant red zone possession, and a Milton Williams forced fumble, all helped to overcome the greatest quarterback of the generation on the biggest stage football has to offer. And they didn't just win. The game was effectively over at halftime. 24-0 at the half, a lead that rose to 34-0, then shrunk to 31, then back to 34, leading to Philadelphia wide receivers A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith to dump Gatorade on their newly minted Super Bowl winning head coach before the 2-minute warning. What makes Philadelphia different from San Francisco? Why is it that the Eagles reset, which involved bringing in a new head coach and overhauling the roster, but keeping their general manager, worked, and the 49ers reset, which kept the existing team structure but overhauled the roster, didn't? If you're a fan of either of these teams, the answer should be pretty obvious. It's found in the draft. Welcome to Any Given Sunday's Scripted Saturday. I'm your host, Coop, and today we're going to be examining in depth why the Eagles are Super Bowl champions and why the 49ers have failed to reach the same heights. Let's get into it. I think it makes the most sense to parse through these teams season by season. Starting in 2017, the year Kyle Shanahan was hired to save San Francisco, and the Eagles ended up as Super Bowl champions.
Incomplete, and the game is over. The game is over. The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
In the first round, San Francisco selected defensive end Solomon Thomas at 3rd overall. Thomas is entering his 9th NFL season and has 18.5 total sacks. 8.5 of those have come in the last 2 seasons while he was a New York Jet. who's been out of the Niners organization for 4 going on 5 years. The 49ers' second first-round pick was Reuben Foster, an inside linebacker who never had more than 100 tackles in a season and never played more than 10 games in a season. The 49ers released Foster after multiple domestic violence arrests, and he never played in the NFL again. He doesn't even get my usual excuse of being a hell of a football player, because he just wasn't. Their next pick, cornerback Akello Witherspoon, has carved out a solid NFL career for himself across multiple teams. At pick 104, the Niners drafted quarterback C.J. Beathard, a career backup who has never started for any reason outside of injury. In the 5th round, though, John Lynch found himself a gem, a little-known tight end out of Iowa named George Kittle. Kittle is a future Hall of Famer and undoubtedly one of the top 5 to ever play his position. Finding that guy in the 5th round deserves praise, legitimately. Lynch has a knack for finding mid to late round talent, and while 4 of the next 5 guys are still in the NFL, their careers aren't noteworthy. The 2017 Super Bowl champs draft was, surprisingly, maybe worse. In the 1st round at pick 14, they drafted defensive end Derek, it's always him, Barnett.
Still 3rd down. 5th penalty against the Eagles tonight, all of them on the defense.
I always felt from a defensive perspective, when you have quarterbacks who can work the cadence like that and just toy with you pre-snap.
Barnett is well known in Philadelphia for 2 things. First, recovering the fumble that Brandon Graham forced on Tom Brady to help secure Philly's unlikely Super Bowl win as a rookie.
Absolutely no question. The rookie Barnett, their number 1 pick out of Tennessee.
And second, jumping off sides repeatedly. Barnett's best season in Philly came in 2019 when he logged 6.5 sacks. He spent the last year and a half in Houston under DeMeco Ryan, and he's logged 7.5 sacks in that time. The other thing that Barnett is well known for is not being a Watt, as TJ Watt was drafted 16 picks later at pick 30. Philadelphia and San Francisco are not the only 2 who passed on TJ Watt, but those 2 along with Dallas probably have the biggest buyer's remorse. Sorry, Riley. In the 2nd round, the Eagles took Sidney Jones, a solid corner without a ton of career production, and same kind of goes for 3rd round corner Rasul Douglas from the same class. The best pick in this draft was probably Mac Hollins, who was a 4th round receiver, and given that, the fact that he's carved out a starting role for himself on a couple different NFL teams at this point, even if it's the starting receiver 3, is impressive, and you will never make me hate him. I don't care that he goes barefoot. In 2018, while harboring the 9th overall pick, the 49ers selected tackle Mike McGlinchey, who I just learned while looking at his Pro Football Reference page is Matt Ryan's cousin. McGlinchey is a very consistent tackle who's been a starter for his entire career in both San Francisco and Denver, even if he only has 3 fully healthy seasons in that time frame. Being 30, it's very possible we haven't seen the best that McGlinchey has to offer. Their 2nd round pick, Dante Pettis, is probably your favorite receiver 5, but you'd rather draft a starter in the 2nd round. In the 3rd round, they found yet another non-day 1 gem. Round 3, pick 70, they selected Fred Warner, undoubtedly one of the best inside linebackers in the modern NFL.
They picked up 6. Cook, left, gets smacked. Fred Warner. 2nd and 2. It's Cook right up the middle. 1st down into 49ers territory. Still going. Dalvin Cook fumbled. It's loose. 49ers say they have it, and they do. So Cook makes an incredible run, but coughed it up at the end as Fred Warner, the rookie, popped it out.
He was not a first-team All-Pro in 2024 because he had a down year. So naturally, he was a second-team All-Pro in a down year. That was only down because he played on a broken foot all season. Yeah, he's a fucking demon. The only other notable name from this class is DJ Reed. He's a corner who's played 101 games and has started a majority of that time, which is a legitimately great find in the 4th round. The Super Bowl hungover Eagles started that hangover in the draft, trading out of the 1st round and gifting Lamar Jackson to the Ravens. Who cares? That Jackson kid probably won't turn out to be any good, and the Eagles already have their franchise quarterback in Carson Wentz. Hindsight is 20. Anyway, in the second round, they grabbed Dallas Goedert, a top 5 tight end in the league when healthy. He split snaps with future Hall of Famer Zach Ertz early in his career and didn't even get sole possession of the tight end 1 spot until 2021. Fourth round corner Avonte Maddox may be made out of glass, but he was one of the best nickel corners in the league until about 2022. I'd say fellow fourth round pick Josh Sweat is a great contender for a highlight of this class, as he's amassed 43 sacks over the course of his NFL career so far. Not the mark of a top flight pass rusher by any means, especially since he's only broken the 10 sack barrier once, but to get that kind of production from a fourth round defensive end, he's pretty impressive, and he'll be a starter in Arizona this year. So why isn't Josh Sweat, the defensive end out of Florida State, the highlight of this class? Well, in the 7th round, the Eagles made an investment in their offensive line. So what? Trenches are their bread and butter. We literally just talked about Josh Sweat. Well, this offensive tackle, who was 6'8" and 300 or more pounds, had never played a snap of football in his life. His name is Jordan Mailata. Mailata was a top 3 tackle in the NFL last season.
Fucking bite me.
Between Mailata, Sweat, and Goddard, this was a super solid late round draft class that solidified the foundation for what the Eagles would become. Through the first 2 years, these two teams don't seem terribly different. Both have had first round misses while being saved by day 2 and 3 picks that ended up being gems. In 2019, these two teams went in opposite directions. Both won their division, sure, but the Niners dominated the NFL en route to a Super Bowl appearance, while the Eagles, with the 2nd overall pick, the 49ers grabbed Ohio State edge rusher Nick Bosa.
Take by playing that loose of coverage on the back end for San Fran.
First and goal from the 8. It is Jones. And he was met initially by Nick Bosa. Winston can't fire the one downfield, and he is sacked back at the 38-yard line. First NFL sack for Nick Bosa.
A legit superstar and franchise cornerstone, as long as you don't go through his Twitter. He's the definition of hell of a football player. In the 2nd round at pick 36, the Niners grabbed wide receiver Deebo Samuel, an offensive chess piece with 5,900 career yards on 536 career touches. We're going to ignore 3rd round pick Jalen Hurd and instead move on to 4th and 5th round picks Mitch Wishnowsky and Dre Greenlaw, respectively. Wishnowsky is a solid punter who does not change my opinion about drafting special teamers, but Greenlaw, that was a special pick.
Murray's in trouble and just keeps going backward where he's tapped down by Dre Greenlaw. Initial pressure by DJ Jones.
Wilson pressure off the edge, releases it, and it is intercepted by Greenlaw. Dre Greenlaw now on the return as he's still on his feet with blockers in front. Dre Greenlaw down the sideline.
Greenlaw was effectively another Warner caliber find on day 3. If you can find a guy who's 3/4 as good as Fred Warner 2 full rounds later, you've done something right. You could honestly pick 2 or 3 guys as the highlight pick of this class, and I don't think you'd get much argument. The highlight of the 2019 Eagles class was Miles Sanders. Yep. This year also began the 2-year trend of the Eagles not being able to draft a receiver worth a damn, as they drafted J.J. Arcega-Whiteside in the 2nd round, with DK Metcalf, Deontay Johnson, and Terry McLaurin all still on the board. I have no fucking clue what Howie was on. Both of these teams underperformed in 2020, which set up the true splitting point of these two franchises. The Niners grabbed a few solid players like second-round receiver Brandon Ayuk or seventh-round receiver Jawan Jennings, both starting receivers for San Francisco to this day. What do Brandon Ayuk, Jawan Jennings, Quez Watkins, and Justin Jefferson all have in common? They are all significantly better than Jalen fucking Reagor, the Eagles' first-round pick in 2020.
Looking, stepping away from the pressure, fires to the end zone, and it's incomplete.
Here's Jalen Reagor making the cut. Nobody touches him. Right. So he's still live. Even if his knee went down, he's still alive. Oh, he's touched right there.
This pick ended up changing the Eagles franchise and specifically Howie Roseman for the better, but holy shit did it hurt for the 2 years that he was on the team. This next pick undeniably changed the franchise, but I'd be lying if I said I and a lot of other Eagles fans were not severely upset when it happened. In the second round, at pick 53, the Philadelphia Eagles selected Oklahoma quarterback Jalen Hurts.
Use that pass game, and if they can continue to do that, this is a very tough team to beat.
Hurts all day, looking over the middle. Smith is wide open.
Yeah.
Look in that direction. Hurts pumps, fires. Oh, it's caught. Beautiful ball, Smith.
Downfield, turnaround catch, back shoulder. It is.
10th play of the drive for the Eagles, 3rd down and 7. Hurts to the end zone. It is A.J. Brown.
2020 is probably the best quarterback draft class we've ever seen, with 5 legit franchise caliber quarterbacks all coming out in the first 5 quarterbacks taken off the board. Hurts is the only one to back up his regular season production with postseason greatness, winning a Super Bowl and a Super Bowl MVP. No matter what anyone tries to tell you. Other than 6th round receiver Quez Watkins, this draft class fucking blew. A 2 for 10 hit rate is unbelievably low. I don't think I've ever seen a worse draft class in my life. Well, except for the Jags 2020 class. Over 12? Really? The 2021 49ers class starts/continues a trend that emerged in 2017, disappeared in 2019, and is back with a vengeance in 2021. They can't fucking draft in the first round. The Niners traded 3 first-round picks and a 3rd-round pick to jump from 12 to 3 to acquire Trey Lance. Lance, by the way, now on his 2nd team before his rookie contract is even up. Aaron Banks is a solid offensive lineman and worthy of a 2nd-round pick, but Trey Sermon in the 3rd was a miss. The 2 other notable draftees from this class were Diamador Lenore and Talanoa Hufanga, 2 5th-round DBs who both ended up being startable, with Hufanga even earning himself a first-team All-Pro in 2022. Hufanga may now be a Bronco, but he was solid for his entire career. In 2021, Howie Roseman remembered that he was a professional, and he was supposed to know what the fuck he was doing. He drafted Devontae Smith at 10th overall, grabbing the 3rd receiver and 4th pass catcher off the board with a solid bit of board manipulation, trading from 6 to 12 and then 12 to 10 to jump the receiver-needy Giants. In the 2nd round, he drafted Alabama guard Landon Dickerson, who grabbed 69 as a rookie, cementing himself as a future star. Sure enough, Dickerson is one of the best guards in the league, and while playing between Mailata and Kelsey for the first portion of his career health, in 2024 he proved that he was not a Kelsey merchant, having an equally dominant season to his 2023, with the first center change in a decade and a half in Philadelphia. In the 3rd round, the Eagles grabbed the aforementioned Louisiana Tech defensive end Milton Williams, whose combine numbers stacked up against Aaron Donald's. Playing next to Fletcher Cox and a mysterious 2023 draftee you definitely don't know the name of, absolutely helped Williams. But that being said, he is still a very good defensive tackle in his own right and was well worth the money New England paid him. The only other notable name in this draft class was Kenneth Gainwell, a super solid RB2 for his career in Philadelphia, who will likely continue that in Pittsburgh this year. Now we're going to play a game, you and I. I'm going to name the first 8 picks of the 49ers 2022 draft class, and you're going to tell me how many of them you know, where they currently play, and what their position is. Ready? Here we go. Round 2, pick 61, Drake Jackson. Round 3, pick 93, Tyrion Davis Price. Round 3, pick 105, Danny Gray. Round 4, pick 134, Spencer Burford. Round 5, pick 172, Samuel Womack. Round 6, pick 187, Nick Zakello. Round 6, pick 220, Kalia Davis. Round 6, pick 221, Tariq Castro Fields. How many did you get? Was it between 0 and 2? Yeah, of fucking course it was. Who are these people? The Niners are so unbelievably lucky that they hit the goddamn jackpot with their 9th pick when they selected Brock Purdy, Mr. Relevant himself. He is the thread that has held this franchise together for the last 3 years, and without him, they'd be a bottom 5 team in the NFL. Now, we're going to play the same game with the Eagles' entire draft class from 2022, and you're going to tell me how many of the names you recognize, just from what you've heard around the league. Ready? Here we go. Round 1, pick 13, Jordan Davis. Round 2, pick 51, Cam Jurgens. Round 3, pick 83, Nakobe Dean. Round 6, pick 181, Kyron Johnson. Round 6, pick 198, Grant Calcaterra. There's 6 names on this list, and I'm still confident you can name 3 or 4 of them as far as what position they play for and what team they currently play for, which is more than you would have gotten for the Niners. What the fuck? Jordan Davis is a super solid nose tackle. Cam Jurgens was Kelsey's hand-picked replacement at center, and Nakobe Dean was a great linebacker this year and should continue to be so well into the future, assuming he can stay healthy. Grant Calcaterra had 1 insane catch this year, and other than that has just kind of been an okay tight end 2 behind Goddard. He can't block for shit, but for a 6th-round pick, you honestly can't complain about a solid pass-catching tight end. The Eagles, between 2018 and 2022, grabbed their starting left tackle, starting tight end, starting quarterback, starting wide receiver 2, starting left guard, 2 starting defensive tackles, and a starting center/guard. Oh, and by the way, during the 2022 NFL Draft, Howie Roseman dealt a 1st and a 3rd round pick for A.J. Brown, their wide receiver 1, who has more Super Bowl touchdowns than the guy Tennessee drafted to replace him, Treylon Burks, has career touchdowns. I'd say that worked out for Philadelphia. This, unsurprisingly, helped to lift Philadelphia to the Super Bowl. And while they lost, totally reasonable hope that definitely wasn't ticky-tacky at the worst possible time. The Eagles knew they'd be back eventually, maybe even the following year. Then the 2023 season happened. San Francisco had no 1st or 2nd round picks. Their best draft pick was Jake Moody because John Lynch is a shitty general manager who can't draft for shit. The Niners made the Super Bowl on the strength of the stars that I've highlighted, alongside mostly free agent signings and Christian McCaffrey, someone they traded for in mid-2022. They lost in overtime to Kansas City because Patrick Mahomes is inevitable. Thanks to a draft day trade with the Saints in 2022, the Eagles ended up with pick 10 in 2023, right after playing in the Super Bowl. They then packaged pick 10 with a 4th round pick, which they used to trade up with the Chicago Bears to pick number 9, which they used to select Jalen Carter, a defensive tackle out of Georgia with some hell of a football player type off-field issues. At pick 30, the Eagles selected Georgia outside linebacker Nolan Smith, who now holds the records for most sacks in a single postseason in franchise history. Grabbing Tyler Steen, the presumed 2025 starting right guard, in the 3rd round was a solid Stoutland University pick. Sidney Brown, a fellow 3rd round pick, is probably the safety 3 on this roster headed into the year, but he's a fucking missile launcher when he gets his hands on somebody. Georgia corner Keely Ringo, the 5th round pick, played solid football as a rookie, then lost his starting job in 2024, and is now the presumed CB2. Good for him. Mormon missile Tanner McKee was a 6th round pick who should have been the Eagles QB2 last year over Kenny Pickett, who was a 1st round pick, by the way, and will be the Eagles QB2 this year unless Kyle McCord is a genuinely startable quarterback this year, which I find unlikely. In the 7th round, the Eagles grabbed Texas defensive tackle Moro Ajomo, who had a pretty solid Super Bowl performance, all things considered, and looks to be taking the Milton Williams role headed into next year. In other words, another body that they can say, hey, go get upfield, while Jalen Carter eats a double team. The Eagles were barely a playoff team in 2023. The offense was predictable. The defense sucked, especially at corner 2 and nickel corner. I mean, teams just picked Philly to shreds. down the field because of James Bradbury, Avonte Maddox, and whoever they brought in to replace Avonte Maddox. I don't even remember at this point. It's really too early to judge the Niners 2024 class. Ricky Pearsall looks okay. Dominic Pooney and Malik Mustafa both look like genuine starters, if not stars, at their respective positions. Isaac Guerrero looks like a potential role player to me, but they didn't do enough this year for me to tell you what those guys' careers are going to look like. In Philly, though, it is not too early to tell you what their draft class looked like. Quinyon Mitchell was outrageously good, like a borderline top 10 corner as a rookie, and really should have won Defensive Rookie of the Year. Cooper DeJean was the best nickel corner in the league and had a pick six off of Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl, which is a clip that I'm going to show you again because I can.
3rd and 16. Mahomes rolling out. Looking, firing, intercepted! Picked up by Cooper DeJean. Gets a block. DeJean is in. Touchdown.
Jalix Hunt, a 3rd-round pick and a super toolsy but raw pass rusher, had an outrageously productive Super Bowl. Will Shipley looks like the future RB2 of this team and plays a very similar style of football to Saquon Barkley. And Jeremiah Trotter Jr. looks like he should be a top-tier linebacker 3 or 4, someone that we can just plug in and not have to worry about. Everyone else in this class, it's still too early to tell how they're going to turn out. But still, to know what 3 to 5 of these guys are going to look like for their careers after a year is outrageous. And it's a huge reason why the Eagles won the Super Bowl this year. Now, you may be able to guess where this is going. People often call the Eagles a super team, but ignore how they built the roster. I'm going to detail who the starters or presumed starters will be in 2025 and where they came from for each of these 2 rosters. Let's start it with the 49ers. Quarterback, Brock Purdy, obviously. Drafted in the 7th round of 2022. Mr. Irrelevant. RB1, Christian McCaffrey. They traded for him in 2022. Wide receiver 1, Brandon Ayuk. Drafted in the 2nd round of 2020. Wide receiver 2, Jawan Jennings. Drafted in the 7th round of 2020. Wide receiver 3, Ricky Pearsall. Drafted in the 1st round of 2024. George Kittle at the starting tight end position. Drafted in the 5th round in 2017. Kyle Juszczyk, who they brought in free agency in 2017 from Baltimore. Trent Williams, who they traded for in 2020. Ben Barch, who they signed off the Jags practice squad in 2023 as a starting left guard. Center, Jake Brendel, a free agent signing in 2020. Right guard, Dominic Pooney, drafted in the 3rd round of 2024. Right tackle, Colton McKivitz, drafted in the 5th round of 2020. Defensive end, Michael Williams, drafted 1st round of this year, the Georgia edge rusher. Defensive tackle, Kevin Givens, an undrafted free agent signing in 2019. Defensive tackle, Jordan Elliott, a free agent signing last year. Defensive end, Nick Bosa, obviously, 1st round pick, 2019. Will linebacker, D. Winters, drafted in the 6th round of 2023. Middle linebacker, or Mike linebacker. Fred Warner, drafted round 3, 2018. And their Sam linebacker, Nick Martin, drafted in the 3rd round of 2025. CB1, Diamador Lenore, drafted in the 5th round, 2021. Corner 2, Renardo Green, drafted in the 2nd round of 2024. Nickel corner, Upton Stout, drafted in the 3rd round of 2025. Strong safety, Jair Brown, drafted round 3 of 2023. Free safety, Malik Mustafa, 4th round pick in 2024. Kicker, Jake Moody, drafted in the 3rd round of 2023. Punter, Thomas Morstead, a free agent signing in 2025. Long snapper, John Weeks, a free agent signing also in 2025. 72% of this roster was built through the draft, but a lot of it was late rounds, right? I mean, we're looking at 1, 2, 3 starters on the entire team, 3 of 25. I could do the math for that real quick because I'm bad at my job and didn't do it. 8% of this roster was drafted in the 1st round. If we expand that to the first 2 rounds, we have a 5th. So 20% of this roster was drafted in the top 2 rounds. That's a problem. You can't be relying on the late round hits forever. It's a miracle this team isn't worse than they were. Free agent signings, another 20% came from free agency. That's 5 of the 25. And they traded for 2 starters, being Trent Williams and Christian McCaffrey, both of whom have been dominant for the 49ers. There were 2 great trades. I mean, you really can't knock them at all. Now, Philadelphia. Quarterback Jalen Hurts, drafted 2nd round, 2020. Running back Saquon Barkley, a free agent signing in 2024. Wide receiver 1, A.J. Brown, they traded for him in 2022. We talked about that. Wide receiver 2, Devontae Smith, drafted in the 1st round, 2021. Wide receiver 3, Jahan Dotson, they traded for him in 2024. Tight end Dallas Goedert, drafted in the 2nd round, 2018. Left tackle Jordan Mailata, drafted in the 7th round of 2018. Landon Dickerson, drafted in the 2nd round, 2021. Cam Jurgens, drafted in the 2nd round, 2022. Tyler Steen, drafted in the 3rd round, 2023. Lane Johnson, God bless him, 1st round draft pick, 2013, one of the only good 1st round draft picks in 2013. Defensive end Moro Ojomo, drafted in the 7th round of 2023. Defensive tackle, the nose tackle really, Jordan Davis, drafted in the 1st round, 2022. Defensive end Jalen Carter, drafted in the 1st round, 2023. The will linebacker Nolan Smith, drafted in the 1st round, 2023. The Mike linebacker Zach Bond, was a free agent signing in 2024. Our Sam backer, Nakobe Dean, was drafted in the 3rd round, 2022. Azeez Ojulari was a free agent signing in 2025. Cornerback 1, Quinyon Mitchell, drafted in the 1st round, 2024. Keely Ringo, drafted in the 5th round in 2023. Cooper DeJean, drafted in the 2nd round, 2024. He's going to be the nickel corner again, I hope. Strong safety, Reed Blankenship was an undrafted free agent signed in 2022. Free safety, Andrew Makuba, probably, drafted in the 2nd round of this year. We signed Jake Elliott from Cincinnati's practice squad in 2017, which is very funny to think about, given the fact that they drafted the kicker not long after that. Punter Braden Mann was a free agent signing in 2023, and our long snapper Charlie Hewlett was a free agent signing in 2025. Now, less of this roster was drafted, right? 17 to 26 instead of 18 to 25. That is a 65% as opposed to a 72%. But this team also lost 3 drafted players to free agency this year. Josh Sweat, Milton Williams, Brandon Graham. Well, Brandon Graham retired, which would have bumped that number up to 20 of 26. There's another number that I don't have because I'm bad at my job. 77% effectively, 76.9. But I would have written that down to 77% of their roster last year was drafted by us. This team is built through the draft. You want to get even more granular like we did with the Niners? 1, 2, 3, 12 of the 26. 46% of our starting roster was drafted in the top 2 rounds. The Niners number was 20%. We more than doubled it. You want to know why the Eagles are Super Bowl champs and the Niners aren't? That's it right there. The Eagles can hit on their top 2 rounds of draft picks. 46% of the starters came in the top 2 rounds of the draft, and it's 20% for San Francisco. John, fuck up, man. Do your fucking job. Both teams also traded for the same number of players with a similar amount of impact coming from each. Trent Williams, A.J. Brown, Christian McCaffrey, Jahan Dotson. I lied. Look, everything I've said so far is not new information. I'm not the first guy to talk about it. So why am I talking about it? Well, the Rams laid out a blueprint for how to fuck your picks into the Super Bowl, how to trade years worth of 1st round picks to win a Super Bowl. But that's not sustainable, right? The Rams are still kind of dealing with the blowback from that. Yeah, they got a ring. It was all worth it. But they got 1 ring, maybe a 2nd coming this year. But even then, this isn't the fuck your picks Ram team anymore. The Eagles laid out a sustainable way to do what the Rams tried to do. Draft well early, especially in the 1st and 2nd rounds. You have to hit on your draft pick. Trust your coaches to turn weak points into strengths. They brought in Vic Fangio. That was a huge part of the defensive resurgence. And you have to be willing to take a shot on a toolsy player in the late rounds. That's something that John Lynch understands very well. How to take a shot on a kid that you think could be that good in the later rounds. Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, Malik Mustafa, Talanoa Hufanga, Diamador Lenore, right? And George Kittle, even. These were all late round draft picks. John Lynch just throwing darts at the board. He hit them. But until he gets better with his first and second round picks, it's not going to happen in San Francisco. I really hope you enjoyed this video. It's different from what the first month of content was, but I appreciate you sticking with me to the end. If you did like the video, it would mean the world to me if you'd subscribe. Leave a comment. Let me know what you liked and didn't like about this style of content or anything else we've done so far. Other than that, I will see you next Saturday, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. So long.